Former Ottawa police deputy chief charged with sexual assault. University of Waterloo seeks injunction to end pro-Palestinian encampment. Young 2S LGBTQ plus people are overrepresented in Nova Scotia's houseless population. Liberals lose seat they've held for 3 decades. Julian Assange is free. And Kenyan police arrive in Haiti. Good morning. It's Wednesday, June 26th. I'm Nora. Here are your headlines. We start this morning in Ontario, where Ontario's police watchdog has charged a former Ottawa police deputy chief with sexual assault. Uday Jaswal was charged with 1 count of sexual assault of a woman in an incident that occurred while he was an inspector. Jaswal left his position in 2022 over multiple allegations of sexual harassment. Ontario Special Investigations Unit said Ontario Police informed it of the incident in March 2023, and an investigation was launched immediately. At least one of the victims was working with Jaswal at the time of the sexual assault. His first appearance is scheduled for July 18th. Next, the University of Waterloo is seeking an injunction to take down the pro-Palestinian encampment that has been in place since May 13th. The university issued a trespass notice to protesters on Friday, following a notice they issued back in May telling the students to take down the encampment. The university administration says that while it respects the students' freedom of expression, it actually doesn't. The encampment, quote, remains in place in violation of Waterloo policies and the law, unquote. Speaking to CBC News, Occupy U Waterloo spokesperson Nick Joseph said that they would not comment on the injunction, but had called the trespass notice the university issued, quote, absolutely nonsensical, unquote. He said it will, quote, not influence our decisions moving forward whatsoever, unquote. Next, outreach workers in Nova Scotia are reporting that 2S LGBTQ plus youth in the province are overrepresented in the houseless population, something that is also reflected in national statistics. Reporting for CBC News, Selena Alders spoke to several outreach workers in the province who say they're unable to find housing for young 2S LGBTQ plus people or have had to turn them away due to a lack of safe, affordable housing there. They all tied the issue to the larger housing crisis taking place in the province. Janelle Como, who manages the Phoenix Youth Shelter in Halifax, told CBC that the problem will persist until there are safe places for these youth to transition to. She said this, quote, until there's a place for youth to transition to, unfortunately, we're not going to see change at the shelter. The biggest challenge is always for us, what's next? What's available for youth, for queer youth especially, unquote. Next, the Liberals lost a Toronto seat they've held for 30 years in a by-election. Conservative candidate Don Stewart snagged a narrow win of the seat. The Liberals' loss here has surprised many political watchers and could be is a harbinger of results in a federal election whenever that happens. Now, this was an election where a Liberal stalwart, a hack, someone who was on the wrong side of student issues 2 decades ago and who, went on to be a Liberal hack, left the office of Chrystia Freeland to run in the riding. It was a bit of a controversial appointment because there were other people for the Liberal Party that wanted to run, and Leslie Church was seen, as she is, as an insider and a hack. Leslie Church lost, which I gotta say was pretty sweet to witness. Now, this is a surprise. Toronto St. Paul's is a riding that was held by Carolyn Bennett forever. I lived there for 5 years, and it was a Liberal stronghold. My partner made a comment that it was funny that there was no allegations of sign slashing, which is something that Carolyn Bennett always pulled out in week 3 of her election campaign. Maybe Leslie Church should have slashed some signs to get some attention to win that 600 vote gap that she lost to with Don Stewart. There's the next time that's going to happen, probably. Mark my words, or perhaps my partner's words. But this is also a riding that is provincially held by Jill Andrew in the Ontario NDP. So it going to Don Stewart, a Conservative, is a big deal. Now, Trudeau responded to the loss by saying that he hears Canadians' concerns and frustrations. Though, does he actually hear them? Does he actually hear how unpopular he is? Or is he just saying that? I'm going to guess he's just saying that. Now, Pierre Poilievre, of course, was ecstatic. He responded to say that the Conservatives' win meant that people had quoted to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Unquote. Either way, we're all screwed. It's really bad. It's really, really bad news. There's a lot to say about this and a lot of analysis to come. I suspect that Sandy and I will probably talk about it next week because it is a big deal. Next, following up from the good news that I announced last night, Julian Assange is finally free. After an over-decade ordeal with the U.S. government that saw him being held in a U.K. prison and taking shelter in the Ecuadorian embassy there, he accepted a plea deal in exchange for his freedom and is on his way home to Australia. On his way there, he stopped in the Northern Mariana Islands, a U.S. Commonwealth, where he pleaded guilty to a single felony charge for publishing U.S. military secrets in exchange for his freedom. A criminal case was brought against Assange under the Trump administration over diplomatic cables that WikiLeaks had published that detailed U.S. military action in Iraq and Afghanistan. One of the files that was leaked was a video of a 2007 Apache helicopter attack by American forces in Baghdad that killed 11 people, including 2 Reuters journalists. The Australian government has been advocating for his release for several years. His treatment had been criticized by press freedom advocates. Now, of course, it sucks that Assange had to plead guilty. It's not ideal from a press freedom perspective, but to all the people who are critical of Assange for having pled guilty, I mean, guys, he's done a decade in prison. Let the guy go free. The legal system sucks, and sometimes you have to play that game. And I personally wish nothing but the best for Julian Assange. Finally, to Haiti, where Kenyan police have arrived as part of a UN-backed foreign mission meant to deal with the gangs in that country. More than 80% of Haiti has fallen under control of various gangs. The deployment of the Kenyan police has been met with a lot of controversy and criticism because of the long, violent history Haiti has with foreign interventions. There has also been little to no details about the mission's goals. On the same day that Kenyan deployment landed in Haiti, police in Nairobi opened fire on protesters who tried to take parliament over the tax hikes I told you about last week. Several protesters have been confirmed dead, as Kenyan President William Ruto has vowed to end the demonstrations, quote unquote, at whatever cost. Solidarity, of course, to everybody in Kenya who's fighting against these austerity measures, and solidarity to everyone in Haiti who's fighting for a better country that is someday free of foreign meddling and interference. Those are your headlines for Wednesday, June 26th. I'm Nora. It's Wednesday. We're halfway through this week, almost done the month. You are listening to this podcast at sandyandnora.com, on the Real News Network podcast feed, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Like, share, tell everybody you know about this podcast. Spread the good news of Sandy and Nora, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.